On February 21st, 2024, Dangerverse airs its 1-hour series finale on Nickelodeon. It's the end of an era, and the conclusion of an illustrious kids' TV universe. But this time feels a little different than when we went through it with Henry Danger this time 4 years ago. I'm Benzie Johnson Jr., I'm enthusiastic about television, and I have some thoughts on this moment in time. On February 29th, 2020, 207.5 weeks ago, we faced the beginning of the end, the first piece of a 4-part series finale for Nickelodeon's Henry Danger, which just might go down as Nick's last big kids sitcom, at least when it comes to having the gravitas of something like an iCarly or any of the 2000s heavy hitters before that. Setting up how Henry Danger is the forgotten final kids TV dynasty is a video for another time, but that big event, 4 years and 1 pandemic ago, truly felt massive, in a way that's getting rarer and rarer for kids TV to feel amidst a shrinking, splintering audience and growing boardroom apathy, if not outright malice. Still looking at you, David! I will always be a little irked about how the finale was scheduled right up against the series premiere of Dangerverse, basically giving Henry no space to breathe before it was on to the next big thing, and parts of the finale being a backdoor introduction to its successor adds to that sentiment. But it still offered a heaping amount of closure and action-packed send-off that felt rewarding to everyone who had been following the story the past 6 years. Or at least to me, because I had been following the story the past 6 years. There are moments in those 4 episodes that are such hugely pitch-perfect plot moments or creative triumphs that they will stick with me for the rest of my life. Especially Kid Danger on that plane as it headed down straight into the mountain. It's been 4 years. If you follow live action fair enough to care that that's a spoiler, but not enough to have actually seen that episode by now, I don't know what to tell you. I won't have to worry about a rushed ending for the Dangerverse finale on Wednesday night, however, because we'll have all the time in the world to sit on it. And that in itself is weird to think about. The Dangerverse, as it's been increasingly called since Dangerverse's premiere, has been airing on Nick in some form for nearly 10 years. The anniversary's in the summer, so it'll stop just a few months short of the big 1-0, but I'm counting it as a full 10 regardless. All this Dangerverse talk also completely ignores The Adventures of Kid Danger from 2018, which I also have dissenting thoughts on, but I digress. Very few concepts in kids TV make it that long. It seems you either stop as a long runner after 6 or 7, or stretch out interminably, like most of the other recent shows with a decade under their belts have. I don't think I ever expected for Swellview and its stories to be such a consistent part of my kids' TV experience. It's a show that's followed me every Saturday, then Thursday, now Wednesday, like clockwork, since I was 15. Even during the early parts of Dangerverse's run, particularly during Season 1 and at times during Season 2, I fully believed that this spin-off had the potential to go the distance just as far as its predecessor, the casting logistics of that aside. The show felt able to faithfully handle the creative challenges bestowed upon it, keeping up with the strides found during Henry Danger's post-Schneider 5th season, while also living up to the bigger, pre-established sensibilities and ethos, and taking it all into interesting, exciting new directions. I was a little concerned about its creative strength during Season 2, but my feelings about that really began to change as Season 3 settled in. I didn't have access to my usual speeds and feeds for most of 2023, as I was too busy trying to piece together my life to scrounge up news sources. But I also didn't miss much, given the show wasn't airing for a lot of that time. I mainly missed Season 2 of That Girl Lele, also great, instead. But catching up on some of the episodes, as the show began a season-long arc, the qualms I previously had began to grow into more nagging doubts. The episode Guardians of the Ponytail, originally aired May 11th, 2023, was perhaps the biggest catalyst. The episode centers around Dangerverse being hired to protect the ponytail of Duke Wellington from the ponyless Archduke Fernando of Rivalton. He's a callback to Season 1. Ray and Henry have been hired by Fernando to lop it off the Duke. As much as Henry's reunion appearances on Dangerverse have been lackadaisical at times, seeing Ray and Henry as active antagonists, when they've spent so long as heroes, even comically ambiguous ones, felt like something that broke the show for me. They seemed to lean into the buddy dynamic in a single-minded way that felt like it disregarded the prior nuance of their characters, a kind of exposition that harkened back to the Flanderized days in Henry Danger's Season 3. With that perceived conceptual point of no return on the brain, parts of the comic plots of other later episodes, like Hey, Where's Schwoz?, where Schwoz is abducted and missing for 2 weeks before the team notices, and Don't Go In There!, where Dangerverse are barred from entering a new door within the man's nest, felt like they just didn't stand up as well creatively to the things that had come before it. And the show's season-long action arc, where the Force will have to stop a mysterious group known as the Cell from fulfilling an ominous prophecy, isn't enough on its own to compensate for that, as much as it is as solid as a Dangerverse action arc has ever been, and there definitely have been plenty of them over the years. On that basis, as much as closing the book on a decade of kids' TV is bittersweet, it also feels like Dangerforce is coming to an end at the right time, just before the wheels fully come off. The truncated 13-episode season is still a bit of a slap in the face from a general content treatment standpoint, but I also don't want to see the show become dragged out. It's not a ratings monster like its parent was, nor is there a later series shakeup incoming to inject much-needed freshness and save the show from its worst lows. While the series finale of Henry Danger was a big, loud, triumphant epic, the series finale of Dangerforce will likely be a quiet goodbye, both given Nick's attempts to bury the lead and it being the end. We first got word through a commentator's remark during the NFL Nickmas game in December, and given that Dangerforce just isn't as strong a show anymore as when it started out, I think I'd feel less ready to say goodbye if it actually was. Not that Dangerforce won't go down as a good show, I think it largely should, but the glory days of Henry Danger being the world and having the quality to back it up are long gone. Dangerforce rates, and executes, in a way that makes it hard to set it apart from just another kids sitcom, especially when it's off its game. And having been here for every Danger moment, that feels like a slow downgrade in a way you can hone in on and perceive if you look at it close enough. I don't know how the current kids TV demographic who don't have that context feel when it comes to flipping between Dangerforce premieres on Nick and Henry Danger reruns on Teen Nick. Some of the younger ones weren't even alive when Henry blew his first bubble, which itself is crazy to think about. But I feel like Henry Danger had an easier time of being convincing back then. Wednesday, February 21st will be a notable day in kids' TV history, any way you slice it, regardless. It's rare that kids' TV acknowledges a series finale, especially for a show that will be putting to rest a decade of kids' TV history in the process by the time its hour-long closer is out. But this finale also feels like it comes none too soon, given the state of Dangerforce as a show at this point. And part of me feels sad that that's where I feel we are with it. It's not wasted potential cut short, but it's also not an overstayed welcome mercifully put down. It ends on a slow, managed decline, a quiet conclusion that, in the bigger picture, doesn't seem fitting for the entirety of what it's finishing up. But either way, I was here when this universe first went up the tube, and I'm more than happy to be here to see Dangerforce go down the tube one last time. This video comes from a bit of a different place from my usual. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more thoughtful commentary like this. Elsewhere on Kids Cable, I opined on Cartoon Arc's Checkered Past and what it says about the state of that channel, up here or down in the description. And you can support these videos for as little as $3 a month through my Patreon, YouTube memberships, or Ko-Fi at benzie.tk/join. I'll see you next time.